Okay, good morning everyone. Today we'll do a poem titled Bhagavata, written by a Malayalam poetess named Vijayalakshmi. Now, Vijayalakshmi is the wife of Balachandra Chullikar, you know, the Malayalam poet, and she has received several awards and she's written a lot of poems in Malayalam. And this particular poem has been translated by the famous poet Sachidanandan. So this is translated into English by Sachidanandan. And this poem speaks about the different gender roles that are assigned to human beings, men and women in society. So here we see how each person is, you can say, controlled or within the spheres of the gender roles that have been assigned to him or her. Now, Bhagavata here refers to it's one of the 18 Puranas of Hinduism, and it's also called Srimad Bhagavatam. Like reading Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be a very, it's usually done by the devotees of Vishnu, right? And actually Srimad Bhagavatam means the glorious devotees of Vishnu, and Bhagavata means a follower of Vishnu or a follower of, you can say, maybe God. So that exactly is the meaning of the word Bhagavata. And Bhagavata Purana is also called the Srimad Bhagavata or the Mahapurana, and it is one of the 18 great Puranas of Hinduism. Now we see what does the poetess do here, or the protagonist of the poem do when it comes to reading this great book or this religious book. Now, what is the significance here? Now, when we talk about gender roles, as we had discussed earlier, we know that gender is something that is assigned to a person with relation to the society, right? Biologically, people are born as male or female, and that is men or women, and that is sex, right? And when we talk about gender, it is something, a concept that is constructed by society. So you say masculine, feminine. So we talk about gender roles. So these are particular roles that can be done by women, and these are particular roles that are done by men. There is no hard and fast rules that only particular roles can be done by men or particular roles can be done by women. But unfortunately, we see in many societies, such kind of gender roles are assigned to people. Like you say, like when I was teaching in the first year, I talked about the term that is, or the sentence that is usually spoken. We say boys don't cry. Who said boys don't cry? Boys can't cry. Who said boys can't cry? See, it is something that is assigned by society. It is constructed, right? Girls are not supposed to climb trees. Who said girls can't climb trees? Girls can climb trees, right? But the particular society has created a gender. It has constructed a gender, right? So they make it a point to kind of to imprint this image or this fact onto the girl's mind, right? So what happens is girls are made to feel that, okay, if you do that, it's wrong. So they immediately feel guilty about it, right? So that is what we mean by gender roles. So in this particular poem, Bhagavata, we see how there is a juxtaposition of gender roles when it comes to the division of work in a house, and how this poem highlights the sacrificial nature of women, right? See, sometimes in our society, we feel that the men's job or whatever men do is more important when it is compared to the work that women do. So women spend most of their time in the kitchen or maybe in the homes, and when they do that, what happens is sometimes it is made to feel that what they do is of less importance, and what the man does is more important. So it's made to kind of feel that way. It is constructed in such a way that most of the time the women's work is termed as unimportant, termed as not so important as the man's work. So here we see the juxtaposition of roles, and there is a comparison of what the man can do and what the women does, and we see how one is kind of given a better status when compared to the other. So I'll just read the poem for you. So it's a very, very small poem and it's pregnant with meaning. So the moment we read it, we understand what it means. So we can just discuss on that. Bhagavata. At dusk, you take your holy dip, and away from the noises of the world, you read aloud the sacred book, Bhagavata. Bhagavata actually means a devotee, right? And reading the Bhagavata. So I'll explain that. Why don't you come? Come on, listen, your calls I hear. But I am busy by the fire cooking for you. 100 plates and pots await me to be washed, and 100 little things chores for tomorrow. With my hands blackened by soot, I turn the leaves of a mighty Bhagavata that will never end. So that will end only when my life ends, and willingly go on reading it. But you never come to hear me. Okay, this is the poem. Excuse me. I'll just read it once more. At dusk, you take your holy dip, and away from the noises of the world, you read aloud the sacred book Bhagavata. Why don't you come? Come on. Listen, your calls I hear, but I am busy by the fire cooking for you. 100 plates and pots await me to be washed, and 100 little things, chores for tomorrow. With my hands blackened by soot, I turn the leaves of a mighty Bhagavata that will end only when my life ends, and willingly go on reading it, but you never come to hear me. So this is the poem that has been prescribed for you, and it is titled Bhagavata. And as I was telling you, the word Bhagavata means devotee of God. So here we see a woman speaking. You can make out, right? When she says, it's like, a woman speaking to her husband. And she says, at dusk you take your holy dip. So you see, in the evening, twilight. So what happens? The man of the house goes and takes a holy dip, goes to the river, takes a dip or takes a bath, away from the noises of the world. The man is not bothered by the things that happen around him. He is focused on one thing, that is, he needs to take a bath before he starts reciting or reading the Bhagavatam, right? And that is very important. Now, at twilight, it's very important that you set apart time to read the Holy Scriptures and pray. That should be the situation in every home. So what does the man do? He is not bothered by what happens around him. There might be a lot of noises around him. There might be a lot of activities around him, but that does not seem to kind of bother him at all. So what he does is, he simply goes away from the hustle and bustle, not at all concerned about what's happening around him. Those things don't affect him. He goes and he takes a holy dip, or he washes himself, and he starts reading the holy book Bhagavata, right? So that is the practice that they have in the evenings to read the scriptures. So nothing affects him. Even if there are hundreds of things to be done, he doesn't bother about all that. He's not concerned about all that. He just goes and does his thing. So he goes, takes a bath, cleanses himself or purifies himself, and he starts coming and he starts reading aloud the sacred book, the Bhagavata. Then he says, why don't you come? Come on, listen. She hears this man calling her. Come, I'm reading the scriptures. Come and sit with me. Let's pray. Let's read the scriptures together. Your calls I hear. It's not that she doesn't hear. She says, I hear you calling me. I hear you calling me, but I am busy by the fire cooking for you. So what's her role? She is busy by the fire. She has to cook, not only for him, but for the entire family. So sometimes she cannot come. She says, I cannot just ignore my household chores because nobody else will do them. The man can just ignore things around him. The woman cannot. So she says, I have got hundreds of other things to do. I have to cook, I have to clean. And she says, I am busy by the fire cooking for you. It's not just cooking. 100 plates and pots await me to be washed, and 100 little things chose for tomorrow. So this man is not concerned about the things. He's not bothered about whether somebody has to cook, whether the pots have to be clean, whether the pans have to be clean, whether something has to be done for tomorrow. All that is like, it's of no botheration to him. He's oblivious to all that. So he moves away from everything and he just focuses on what needs to be done, right? And people who look at this would think, see, he is so religious, he is so pious, he is so, he's got so much of devotion. And look at the woman, she's spending her time in the kitchen, she's not coming for prayer. That's what an observer would see. And then an observer would always feel that he is doing something that is very important. What is she doing? She's doing very trivial things. Right? What are the trivial things? Cooking, cleaning, those are not trivial things. And she is spending so much of time on trivial things. But in actuality, are those trivial things? Can we call those trivial things? Because unless those things are done, the house won't run. Unless the meal is cooked, when you come after prayer, you have to sit and eat. So somebody has to cook, somebody has to clean, somebody has to plan things for the next day. Right? So all these roles are taken by the woman. And the man keeps on calling her, come, come. She says, I can hear you call. With my hands blackened by soot. So she must be working in a, working near an old-fashioned stuff wherein you use logs and coal or charcoal to burn. And what has happened? The hands have become black because of the soot, right? I turn the leaves with my hands blackened by soot. I turn the leaves of a mighty Bhagavata that will end only when my life ends, and willingly go on reading it, but you never come to hear me. So she says, I am also reading a Bhagavata, and my Bhagavata is something that nobody understands. With my blackened hands, I am turning the pages of a mighty Bhagavata. And what is that mighty Bhagavata? The Bhagavata of the daily chores, right? So that is also worship. She says, my work is also worship, and I keep on reading it, and I keep on doing it willingly. And this reading will only come to an end when my life ends. So till my life ends, I'll be going on reading this mighty Bhagavata, right? So the daily chores that she does, the household work that she does, she considers all that a mighty Bhagavata. So she says, you might sit there and read the Holy Scriptures. I might not get an opportunity to read the Holy Scriptures, right? I am at home in the kitchen and I'm working, and while I'm working, I am turning the pages of a mighty Bhagavata. Right? I'm turning the pages of a mighty Bhagavata. And that Bhagavata is going to come to an end only when my life ends. And she says, I willingly go on reading it, but you never come to hear me. So she says, just like you called me, I'm also calling you. Maybe not very vociferously, right? But my silent pleas are there for you to come and help me out, to be with me while I read this Bhagavata. So I want you also to read this Bhagavata. If you lend a hand to me, I can also complete this fast, and I can come with you and we can do the reading of the Holy Scriptures together. But unfortunately, you never hear my silent calls. You never hear my silent pleas. I keep on calling out to you. And as I keep on turning the pages of this Bhagavata, what happens? I realize that nobody is there to listen to my calls. Nobody is there to listen to my silent pleas. So I will keep on doing it. And it's not that I do it without wanting to. She says, and willingly go on reading it. I will do it willingly. I love to do it for my family, and I consider it my privilege and my responsibility to do it. It's not that I do it with a lot of anger or bitterness. I'm doing it willingly, right? So when we look at women in our homes, or when we look at women in our society, especially the Indian society, we see, I would say 80% of women, they are ready to sacrifice. They are self-effacing. It need not be always good, right? I wouldn't advocate that a woman being self-effacing is absolutely right. It's not. See, a woman is also a human being. She's not a machine. So she also needs help. So there'll be a lot of chores. Chores will differ from home to home. In some homes, there'll be a lot of chores. In some other homes, there won't be that many chores. But whatever it is, it's always better to lend a helping hand to the women. And sometimes, it is these roles are constructed in by society. This is a gender constructed role. Who says that it is only the right or responsibility of a woman to do the household chores? But unfortunately, knowingly or unknowingly, it has been imprinted in the mind of every girl from the time that she is born that you have to take care of the kitchen. And unless you take care of the kitchen, the household will go hungry. I mean, nowadays things might change, but in olden days and all, it wasn't at all like that. Right? So recently I was watching a movie titled The Great Indian Kitchen. I would advise you to watch it. You see how this girl's life changes dramatically after she's married. Her life revolves only around her kitchen, and the mother-in-law is a person who's got so accustomed to it. And she does everything without complaining. But this young girl is not able to take it. She aspires to become a teacher. She's very passionate about dance. But unfortunately, in her house, the family members, the husband and the father-in-law, are totally against her taking up a job outside the home. So she is expected to be within the kitchen 24 into 7 into 365. I wouldn't say 24, at least only for the hours that she sleeps, she's allowed to take rest. All the other hours, she's fully in the kitchen, fully in the house, cleaning, sweeping, wiping, cooking, throwing out the waste, and there's nobody who lends a hand. And she's expected to cook fresh food every day. She's not even allowed to keep food in the refrigerator, eat that and give. She's not even, even when she puts the clothes in the washing machine, the father is not happy. He says the clothes will get damaged, so wash it on the stone. She's supposed to grind the coconut on the stone, right? So these things brings to light the predicament or the problems faced by an average Indian housewife. Maybe not for everyone, but in most of the houses we see this. It's as though the entire chores are dumped on a woman, right? So this is what this poem highlights. The man's job is, anyone who looks at the man would see that he's doing something very pious, he's doing something very important, whereas the woman is not doing something that's important. And unfortunately, in our society, it's always seen that the roles of women are underplayed, right? It's not considered important. So what happens is, we feel that many times these roles that women take up are not given their due respect. So it's very important that the roles of women are also respected. They're also considered with humaneness. They have to be considered as human beings, people who work in and out, work to the bone, day in and day out, year in and year out, to make sure that their family is well fed, well clothed. So this poem actually brings to light the juxtaposition of gender roles. You compare the man with the woman and you see how their roles are juxtaposed, put side by side. And we understand how these women, many women in Indian society undergo this kind of emotional and mental torture, I would say, agony. Because she says, I tried calling you, but you never seem to hear me at all. Okay, so that is the poem for you. I hope you understood this. Any questions or any comments to make?